A cardboard box slipped from Vivian Hart's hands just as the heavy glass doors slammed shut behind her. The sharp click of the electronic locks echoed across the marble entrance of Ashford Financial Group. Inside, security had already disabled her employee badge. Outside, laughter erupted. Vanessa Park folded her arms and smiled with open satisfaction. Eric Hahn nudged David Seo with his elbow before pointing directly at Vivian. 3 years, Eric mocked loudly. 3 years of pretending to be the smartest woman in this company. David laughed. And now she's carrying her career in a cardboard box. Several employees standing near the entrance lowered their eyes, pretending not to hear. Vivian bent down quietly, picked up the framed photograph that had fallen from the box, wiped the dust from the glass, and placed it back inside. She never looked at the 3 executives. Instead, she reached into her handbag, removed her phone, and dialed a number she almost never called during working hours. The call connected after the first ring. A calm masculine voice answered. Vivian. She closed her eyes for one brief second. Leon. His voice immediately softened. What happened? They fired me. Silence. Not angry silence. The dangerous kind. They framed me. Another pause. What do you need from me? Vivian slowly lifted her eyes toward the executives still laughing at the top of the steps. Buy the company. Leon didn't ask why. He simply asked. And after that? Vivian watched Vanessa clap mockingly, as if celebrating a victory. A quiet fire settled behind Vivian's eyes. Destroy everything they built. She ended the call. Without another word, she walked toward the waiting taxi. Behind her, the laughter only grew louder. None of them realized they had just declared war on the wife of one of the most powerful billionaire CEOs in Asia. Before this story continues, take 1 second to subscribe, like this video, and tell us in the comments. If someone destroyed your career with lies, would you choose revenge or forgiveness? 3 weeks earlier, Vivian Hart was known throughout Ashford Financial Group as the quiet finance controller who somehow caught mistakes everyone else overlooked. She never raised her voice. Never joined office gossip. Never competed for attention. Her reports were flawless. Her forecasts were trusted. Even executives secretly relied on her work before presenting numbers to investors. Yet nobody knew anything about her personal life. Every morning a black sedan dropped her 2 blocks away from the office. She insisted on walking the remaining distance alone. Nobody saw where the car came from. Nobody knew who sat inside. That was exactly how she wanted it. Because every evening that same car took her home to Leon Kwon. To the world, Leon was the billionaire CEO of Kwon Global Holdings, an investment empire that quietly controlled banks, shipping companies, technology firms, luxury hotels, and investment funds across 3 continents. To Vivian, he was simply her husband. He never once suggested she quit working. Never once offered to buy her promotions. Never once interfered with her career. He admired the fact that she wanted to earn her own reputation. One morning, as they shared breakfast overlooking the city skyline, Leon smiled. You've worked harder than anyone I know. Vivian laughed softly. That's because nobody knows who I'm married to. And if they did, they'd assume every achievement belongs to you. Leon reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. You never have to prove your worth to me. I know. But I need to prove it to myself. He nodded. That was one of the many reasons he loved her. She never chased status. She chased excellence. Later that morning Vivian arrived at Ashford Financial Group exactly 8 minutes before work began. As she entered the finance department, conversations immediately became louder. Not because people respected one another. Because everyone wanted to appear busy whenever senior management walked through. Ashford was famous for impressive profits. It was equally famous for office politics. People smiled during meetings. Then destroyed reputations over lunch. Vivian ignored all of it. She sat at her desk and immediately began reviewing quarterly reconciliation reports. An hour later, Finance Director Vanessa Park appeared beside her desk carrying an unusually thick folder. Vivian. She looked up. I need someone dependable. Vivian accepted the folder. What is it? The legacy investment accounts. Several nearby analysts exchanged sympathetic looks. Nobody wanted that assignment. Thousands of archived transactions. Years of forgotten records. An audit everyone else considered a waste of time. Vivian simply nodded. I'll start today. Vanessa smiled. Take your time. As she walked away, Eric quietly chuckled. Poor Vivian. David laughed. She'll spend the next month buried under dead accounts. Vivian paid no attention. She opened the first file. Old investments. Dormant subsidiaries. Closed partnerships. Nothing unusual. Hours passed. Employees left for lunch. Returned. Complained. Gossiped. Went home. Vivian remained at her desk. By 7 o'clock that evening, only a handful of lights remained on. She stretched her shoulders and continued comparing payment histories. Then, her eyes stopped moving. One transaction. Small. Almost invisible. A payment routed through an investment account marked permanently closed 18 months earlier. She frowned. Maybe someone had made a simple mistake. She opened another report. Then, another. The same account appeared again. Another transfer. Different amount. Different date. Same destination. Her heartbeat slowed. Not from fear. From concentration. She began opening older files. Every answer created 2 new questions. By 9:30 that night, the single suspicious payment had become 12. Each one carefully hidden. Each one approved by senior executives. Each one disappearing into companies that barely seemed to exist. Vivian leaned back slowly. Something was terribly wrong. And somewhere else inside the building, someone had just noticed she was asking the wrong questions. Vivian didn't go home immediately. She stared at the growing spreadsheet on her screen, every highlighted transaction making her more uneasy than the last. 12 suspicious transfers had now become 37. Individually, each payment looked harmless. Together, they formed a pattern no honest accountant could ignore. She opened another archived file. Then, another. The same shell companies appeared again. Different names. Different countries. The money always ended up in the same network. Vivian quietly copied every reference number into a secure file stored on an encrypted flash drive she always carried for sensitive audits. She trusted numbers. She no longer trusted the people behind them. At exactly 10:14 p.m., she finally shut down her computer and walked toward the elevators. She never noticed Vanessa Park standing inside a dark conference room across the hallway, watching through the narrow glass panel in the door. Vanessa didn't blink until the elevator doors closed. Then she immediately pulled out her phone. Eric. His sleepy voice answered. What happened? We have a problem. How serious? Vivian knows. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. I'll call David. 40 minutes later, the 3 executives sat inside an unused conference room on the 31st floor. No assistants. No lights except the glow from a laptop screen. Vanessa placed printed system logs on the table. She has accessed every legacy account connected to our operation. Eric grabbed the papers. Are you certain? I checked the access records myself. David rubbed both hands over his face. How much has she seen? Vanessa answered honestly. Enough to destroy us. Nobody spoke. The air inside the room became painfully heavy. Finally, Eric broke the silence. Can we pay her? Vanessa shook her head immediately. Not Vivian. Promote her. No. Threaten her. No. David looked from one face to another. Then what? Vanessa's expression hardened. We destroy her before she destroys us. Eric slowly leaned back. You mean? Frame her. David swallowed hard. For stealing our money? Vanessa nodded. She's the perfect target. Quiet. Trusted. Works late. Everyone will believe she finally gave in to temptation. Eric looked uncertain. If we're caught. Vanessa interrupted. If we're caught, we're going to prison anyway. The room became silent again. Then Eric reached into his briefcase. I prepared something months ago. He placed a cloned employee access card on the table. David stared. You cloned her badge? I clone everyone's. Vanessa slowly smiled. For emergencies. David opened his laptop. I still have the biometric replication software. Vanessa looked at both men. So we're doing this? Neither answered. Instead, Eric slid the cloned badge toward her. That was answer enough. Back at home, Vivian quietly entered the apartment. Leon looked up from the living room. One glance told him something was wrong. You missed dinner. She forced a smile. I lost track of time. He stood. What happened? She sat beside him and removed the flash drive from her handbag. I think I've uncovered financial fraud. His expression changed immediately. How serious? I don't know yet. She looked down at the drive. But it's much bigger than I expected. Leon remained silent. He knew better than to interrupt her thoughts. I think several senior executives are involved. He finally spoke. Do you want my security team to investigate? She shook her head. No. Vivian. I need to finish this myself. They're dangerous. So is the truth. Leon sighed quietly. You know I can protect you. I know. She smiled gently. And knowing you're here already makes me feel protected. He reached for her hand. Promise me something. What? If anything feels wrong. You'll be the first person I call. He nodded. It wasn't the answer he wanted, but it was enough. The next morning Vivian returned to work. She noticed something immediately. People were watching her. Not openly. Brief glances. Whispered conversations. Strange smiles that disappeared the moment she looked up. She ignored them. There was work to finish. By noon she had traced the missing money to nearly $8 million. $8 million. Her breathing became slower. This wasn't ordinary fraud anymore. This was organized theft. She quietly printed several supporting documents. Just then, Emma Brooks appeared beside her desk. The young analyst looked nervous. Vivian. Yes. Emma glanced around carefully. I don't know why. But something feels wrong today. Vivian looked at her. What do you mean? I've seen Vanessa, Eric, and David holding private meetings all morning. Vivian frowned. They've never done that before. Emma lowered her voice even further. And every time they stop talking when someone walks past. Vivian smiled reassuringly. It's probably nothing. Emma wasn't convinced. I hope you're right. As Emma walked away, Vivian looked toward Vanessa's office. The blinds were closed. Minutes later, Vanessa opened the door. She smiled warmly. Vivian. Yes. How's the audit going? Vivian carefully chose her words. I'm still reviewing old records. Vanessa maintained the same friendly smile. Find anything interesting? Vivian met her eyes. Not yet. Vanessa nodded. Take all the time you need. As soon as she disappeared back into her office, Vivian whispered to herself. She knows. Across the hall, Vanessa closed her office door. Her smile vanished instantly. She picked up her phone. It's tonight. Eric answered immediately. "We're ready." David's voice joined through speakerphone. "The software is installed." Vanessa looked out through the blinds toward Vivian's desk one final time. "Tomorrow morning. She won't work here anymore." That night, just after midnight, Ashford Financial Group stood almost completely empty. Only emergency lights illuminated the finance floor. A cleaning cart rolled slowly down the hallway. A security guard yawned at the front desk. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. Exactly at 12:06 a.m., the elevator doors opened. Eric stepped out wearing a dark hooded jacket. He scanned Vivian's cloned access badge. The security system accepted it instantly. The screen displayed only one message. "Access granted." Eric smiled. The trap had officially begun. The hallway remained silent as Eric walked toward Vivian's office. Every camera recorded him. That was exactly what he wanted. Because the security system wasn't identifying his face. It was identifying Vivian's cloned access badge. Inside her office, he sat in her chair and powered on her computer. David's software had already done its job. Vivian's passwords. Her security credentials. Even her biometric login had been copied. Everything the system saw told it one simple lie. Vivian Hart was working after midnight. Eric opened the wire transfer system. His breathing grew heavier. 5 transactions. 5 shell companies. $5 million. He approved each transfer one after another. Every digital record carried Vivian's name. When he finished, he carefully deleted temporary files, wiped every visible trace of himself, shut down the computer, and quietly walked away. At exactly 12:48 a.m., he disappeared into the elevator. 3 miles away. Vivian slept peacefully beside Leon. She had no idea that while she dreamed, someone had stolen her future. The following morning, she arrived at work carrying her usual coffee. The receptionist avoided eye contact. 2 security officers stood unusually close to the elevators. Employees stopped talking when she entered. A strange feeling settled inside her stomach. Then her email notification appeared. "Please report to Human Resources immediately." She frowned. That wasn't normal. She walked toward the HR department. Inside, Miles Carter was already waiting. 2 security officers stood quietly against the wall. A thick folder rested on his desk. "Please sit down, Ms. Hart." Vivian sat calmly. Miles folded his hands. "Last night, $5 million was transferred from company investment accounts using your credentials." Vivian stared at him. "I'm sorry." He opened the folder. "Your employee badge accessed the finance floor at 12:06 a.m. I wasn't here." He continued as though he hadn't heard her. "Your workstation processed every transfer." "I was home." He slid several printed documents across the desk. "These are the system records." Vivian studied them. Every login, every approval, every digital signature carried her name. Her heartbeat accelerated. "This is impossible." Miles remained expressionless. "The evidence disagrees." "I didn't do this. We've reviewed the security footage." He pushed a photograph toward her. A hooded figure sat at her desk. The face couldn't be seen. "But that's not me. It used your badge." "It isn't me. It used your login." She looked directly into his eyes. "Someone cloned my credentials." Miles slowly shook his head. "Our cybersecurity department found no evidence supporting that claim." Vivian took a slow breath. "I want legal representation before this meeting continues." "I'm afraid that request is denied." Her eyes widened. "Denied? This is an internal employment matter. My career is being destroyed. The decision has already been made." "What decision?" Miles quietly closed the folder. "Effective immediately." Your employment with Ashford Financial Group has been terminated. The room became silent. Vivian looked from Miles to the two security officers. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked uncomfortable. Everything had already been decided before she entered. She slowly stood. You're making a terrible mistake. Miles lowered his eyes toward the paperwork. Security will escort you while you collect your personal belongings. Vivian didn't argue. She knew it wouldn't matter. As she walked back toward the finance department, every pair of eyes followed her. Conversations stopped. People pretended to work. Nobody wanted to be associated with someone accused of stealing millions. She reached her desk. One security officer quietly handed her a cardboard box. I'm sorry. His voice barely rose above a whisper. She gave him a faint smile. I know this isn't your decision. She carefully packed the framed photograph she always kept turned slightly away from everyone else's view. Her notebooks. Her pens. A small plant that had somehow survived 3 years in an office full of fluorescent lights. As she reached into her bottom drawer, a quiet voice spoke behind her. Vivian. She turned. Emma Brooks stood there. Her eyes were already filled with tears. She looked over both shoulders before stepping closer. I know you didn't do this. Vivian felt her throat tighten. Those 6 words became the only kindness she'd received all morning. She gently squeezed Emma's hand. Thank you. Emma whispered. Please don't give up. Vivian nodded. I won't. The security officer quietly cleared his throat. It's time. Vivian lifted the box. She walked slowly toward the elevators. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody wished her luck. Only Emma watched until the elevator doors finally closed. Several floors above, Vanessa, Eric and David stood beside the executive windows overlooking the entrance. Eric smiled. It's over. David laughed nervously. I almost can't believe it worked. Vanessa folded her arms. I told you. Nobody suspects the quiet ones until it's too late. Minutes later, the elevator reached the lobby. The security officer accompanied Vivian through the reception area. The revolving doors slowly turned. She stepped outside. The heavy glass doors locked behind her with a loud metallic click. Exactly as though she had never belonged there. Then, laughter exploded across the marble steps. Vanessa clapped sarcastically. Eric pointed directly at her. David shook his head dramatically. What happened to the company's perfect employee? Eric mocked loudly. Vanessa smiled. I guess integrity doesn't pay after all. Several employees entering the building awkwardly hurried past without looking at Vivian. She remained perfectly calm. She placed the cardboard box on the ground, reached into her handbag, removed her phone, and called the only man she trusted completely. Leon answered immediately. Vivian. They fired me. His voice instantly became colder. Tell me. They framed me. A long silence followed. Then, what do you need? Vivian slowly lifted her eyes toward the 3 executives still laughing at the top of the stairs. By Ashford Financial Group. Leon didn't hesitate. And after that? A quiet tear escaped Vivian's eye. Not because she was defeated. Because she had finally accepted that the people she trusted had chosen evil. She wiped away the tear before anyone could see it. Then she spoke 6 words that would change every life inside that building. Ruin every single one of them. She ended the call. Leon looked at the silent phone in his hand for several seconds. Then he stood. His expression contained no anger. Only absolute certainty. He pressed a button on his desk. His chief of staff entered immediately. Sir. Leon spoke only one sentence. Assemble the acquisition team. The man nodded. Which company? Leon looked out across the city skyline. Ashford Financial Group. and classify this operation as immediate. Leon never shouted. He never slammed tables. He never made threats. The people who worked closest to him knew that when he became quiet, someone powerful was about to lose everything. Within an hour, the acquisition team filled the executive conference room. Lawyers, investment strategists, corporate investigators, market analysts. Every screen displayed one name: Ashford Financial Group. Leon stood at the head of the table. "I want a complete report." One analyst nodded. "The company is already vulnerable. Heavy debt. Declining investor confidence." Another spoke. "If confidence drops a little further, the board will have no choice but to accept outside capital." Leon folded his hands. "Then let them lose confidence." Over the next several days, everything happened quietly. Respected financial journalists began asking uncomfortable questions about Ashford's financial reporting. Large investors delayed new funding while requesting additional audits. Several institutional clients suspended transactions pending clarification. The company's stock price began falling. Inside Ashford, panic spread. Vanessa sat in emergency meetings from morning until night. Eric could barely hide the sweat on his forehead. David secretly tried moving money from offshore accounts before anyone discovered them. But every move they made was already being watched. Anonymous evidence had quietly reached federal investigators. The investigators began building their own case. Still, the three executives believed they were dealing with bad luck. They never imagined someone was carefully closing every escape route. 5 trading days later, Ashford's board held an emergency meeting. The chairman spoke with obvious concern. "We need immediate capital." The company's legal advisor stood. "We've received an acquisition proposal from an international investment group willing to purchase a controlling interest." One board member frowned. "Who are they?" "The buyer has requested confidentiality until the agreement is signed." The room became uneasy. Another director sighed. "If we reject this offer, we may not survive another week." Reluctantly, hands began rising around the table. One by one, the acquisition was approved. Vanessa finally smiled for the first time in days. "We survived," she whispered. Eric nodded in relief. David leaned back in his chair. None of them realized they had just handed the company to the one man they should have feared most. 10 minutes later, the conference room doors opened. 2 impeccably dressed security officers entered first. They calmly positioned themselves beside the entrance. Every conversation stopped. Then Leon Kwon walked into the room. His tailored black suit reflected quiet authority. His face remained calm. He wasn't there to celebrate. He was there to finish what they had started. A second figure entered behind him. Vivian. Gone was the exhausted woman carrying a cardboard box. She stood confidently beside her husband, dressed with quiet elegance, her expression composed. Gasps filled the room. Vanessa's face turned pale. Eric shot to his feet. "What is this?" Leon placed a folder on the conference table. "My name is Leon Kwon." His calm voice carried through the silent room. As of 9 o'clock this morning, Kwon Global Holdings owns 64% of Ashford Financial Group. Silence. Absolute silence. The chairman slowly lowered his head. Leon continued. 3 weeks ago, this company falsely accused my wife of financial crimes she did not commit. Vanessa immediately stood. "That's ridiculous." Leon raised one hand. She stopped speaking. Not because he shouted. Because his confidence was overwhelming. At that exact moment, the doors opened again. Federal agents entered. Agent Daniel Ross walked directly toward Vanessa. "Vanessa Park." She stepped backward. "We have warrants for your arrest on charges including fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and money laundering." Her legs nearly gave way. "No. No. There must be some mistake. Daniel remained calm. We recovered every transfer. He looked toward Eric. And every cloned access credential. Then toward David. And every offshore account. Eric tried walking toward the exit. Another agent blocked his path. David simply collapsed into his chair. His shoulders began trembling. Within minutes, all three executives were handcuffed and escorted from the room separately. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The board watched in stunned silence. Leon turned toward Miles Carter. The HR director couldn't even lift his head. You terminated an innocent employee without allowing her a fair hearing. Miles swallowed hard. I believed the evidence. You never questioned it. Miles had no answer. The board immediately voted to suspend him pending investigation. Leon then looked at Vivian. The floor is yours. She slowly stepped forward. Every employee inside the room watched her. She could have humiliated them. She could have fired dozens of people. Instead, she spoke gently. This company doesn't need revenge. It needs integrity. She announced a complete independent audit. Every innocent employee would keep their job. Anyone harmed by the previous leadership would receive justice. Then she looked toward the back of the room. Emma Brooks. The young analyst looked startled. Yes, ma'am. You were the only person who believed me when believing me carried risk. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I've decided to appoint you Director of Financial Analytics. The room erupted into applause. Emma covered her mouth, unable to speak. 6 weeks later, Vivian walked down the same marble steps where she had once stood carrying a cardboard box. This time there were no locked doors behind her. No laughter. No insults. Employees respectfully applauded as she left the building. Leon waited at the bottom of the stairs. She slipped her hand into his. He smiled. Any regrets? Vivian looked back at the company that had once tried to erase her. Then she smiled. They thought they fired a quiet finance controller.